Well, hello there and welcome to my little arty corner of YouTube. It's Thursday, it's the 13th of... No, it's not the 13th of anything. It's 13:01 here in the UK. It's just gone 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's actually the 3rd of February 2022 and it's a bit grey and damp out yet again. I've had the morning finishing drawing this template that you can see in front of you and adding some colour digitally. That's all over on my social media. And I had a thought about what I could do as a video today. And I thought it could be a draw along with me, because what I will do, I think, is take some of the motifs or the patterns that I've used on this template and draw them with you step by step, including some of the Doodleworlds critters, because this template really has become a kind of entangled or Zentangle inspired art. We're joining Doodleworlds. It's a Doodleworld invasion of some Zentangle. They're very unruly, these critters. They really are. They get everywhere if I give them any leeway. So let's have a look at some of these things. I'm just going to adjust my camera for a moment. Back in a moment. Okie dokes, so here I am back again. And I'm going to use, this is an A5 piece of Canson Imagine paper. I've got an 03 Unipin Micron, but any fine liner will do. It just happens to be what I have to hand. So let me start with some of the Tangle Patterns to begin with, or some of the sort of like motifs I've used in the drawing. So one of the ones that I've used is I've started with 4 small circles arranged excuse me, like this, and I will zoom in and I will try to remember to check that I'm on in the camera view as I draw like this. And I'm going to draw U-shaped petals from the diagonal corners of these, from one to the other, like this. Keeping them roughly the same size, but it's not really important. And then with these on my drawing, I did aura inside the petals. But because it was a colouring template, I didn't add any more detail than this. Because I know that not everybody likes tiny, tiny spaces to colour in. But for me, I would create it so it is just like this. Another one that I used is a big circle, a smaller circle inside, and then an arrangement of circles in here as if they're seed shapes. Now with all of these in my drawing, I did thicken the lines to suggest volume, and I'll do it here, and I sort of like rounded these corners off where the petals were as well. No, I didn't actually in the template, but I think I missed doing those, that's all. But here I will. So that just that thickness of line just helps to bring things just that little bit closer together. I'm just going to adjust the focus because it's not looking like it's terribly well focused there. Could be my glasses, mind. Okie dokes, so there's those. Another one that I did was quite fun. Starts with a circle in the centre, and I created a weird shape in the middle of that circle, and then I'm going to put kinds of spokes coming out from that centre place, and yet I am curving them because curves help to create that sense of volume or dimension. And then I'm going to turn these rather rectangular shapes into more petal-like shapes. So it looks quite flowery. So on its own this would work as it is, perhaps all with another oral border around it. I also thickened this line here. But what I did then was to add some more spokes coming off. They can be bent as well. And then join the ends of them with curves to create something that's kind of flower shaped. And I will just thicken the ends of these lines here and just round these a little bit here as well. There's just something so nice about adding this kind of weight. Or increasing the weight of the line is the correct way of saying it, I think. Now these spaces, there's lots of things that could be done in these, but in my version today I chose to pop in shapes like this, and in my example here I'm making them gradually smaller. In my template I actually kept them, well, whatever size they appeared. And in some of them you might only get 2 in if they're not exactly the same size, and that's fine. These could be holes that go to the interior of whatever this is. Or if we make the lines thicker on the outside of this shape, for me it's always to the left and bottom. So the left and bottom again, left and bottom. And this one inside is top and to the right. And it does make a difference whether you draw them within shape or outside for these. It really does. So I don't know if you can, if that makes any difference, if you can see the difference between these that appear as if they are, hopefully as if they're standing proud of the shape, and these that look more like holes. Colour, shadow, sorry, there we are, colour and shadow really help with these. So that was another one that I used. Lots of botanical kinds of things going on here. Another one, only used this partly. So all of them were tucked in behind other parts of the design. But 2 circles to begin with, one inside the other, and then again kind of spokes coming off, but this time I'm drawing them like very narrow and tall U shapes, and then just join them together. These are quite flat lines, but you can do them with big curved lines as well. So you know me, when I draw, when I'm showing you what to draw, I often draw 2 versions or 3 versions in the same, or however many I can get away with there. Another one that I did is a kind of rose, and I started with a circle and I draw a partial curved line inside like this. It creates a very thin crescent moon shape here, and then the best way to do this is to turn the paper, and then you do the same like that. Like this. It is a bit like paradox, the Zen Tangle pattern, but not quite, because it doesn't always involve starting at the same position. Is that here I'm going to start weaving some, and others I'm going to do like paradox, I suppose. So I'm sure you can see the difference, and just gradually creating the shape of a rose, I hope. And it's the randomness, I think, that turns it into a rose more than anything else. And then the leaf I chose to use is this kind of shape, which is, if we carried this on, we could create a heart shape. And if I remember rightly or not, I think I aura'd inside, and then I used a tucked behind the rose rice shape for the leaf. And this works really nicely when colour's added, and it's lovely to colour in a gradient from light to dark or vice versa, and just allow it to spread as it will. Okie doke, so that's those. What else did I use? Oh, these crazy ones. Okay, a crazy kind of planter flower, or very organic, is a wibbly wobbly shape. Be as wibbly and as wobbly as you wish, and you draw a smaller version inside. Doesn't have to be perfect. Then another one, and with this one I'm going to pop some lines in just to connect one to the other and to create a pattern here. And you can see I'm not being consistent with the distance between them, and or spacing these ones that are close, the pairs that are close together around evenly. It's meant to be quite an organic kind of pattern and feel. And then I'm going to add a couple more. The last one, I could have aura'd that, but I decided I'd rather just like a circle there. And then in this circle I'm going to pop something that looks like a seed or a little eye. And the other thing that I like to do, if I've got space in this area here, is to pop in a couple of orbs as if we've got some seeds in there. And this comes to life again with line weighting. So I'm going to make this line thicker, as if I'll show you. I'm trying to work out what it's meant to be and I can't put it into words. This one I'll do in the opposite side, so it feels that this is quite dimensional. I could thicken these lines on this side, and if I do so, it looks like we're digging down into this area. It's almost like steps going down. But however you decide to weight the lines, it will add a sense of dimension. Perfect opportunities where these are here, because it does feel this is folded. So when shading comes in or adding colour, that's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, another kind of motif I've used, or fragment if you wish, because I'm sure they can be put into some kind of patterns. I tend to use the word motif for things that aren't designed really to be put into grids. Is this kind of shape, and they're fun to pile together. I say this kind of shape because they can be any kinds of shape. And you can have them with a hole in them or a raised piece on them. The choice is entirely yours. It's sort of akin to oh, what is it? Oysteroid. but without so many layers and so on. It's just a pebble or a seed of some kind. Okay, another seed that I used was this kind of shape, and I created this kind of feeling going on here, as if we've got the seed pod has opened a little bit. Let's pop a seed in here, but I quite like it when a seed's got a bit of like a frilly bit round it or something else round it. And in my drawing here, I did pop some spokes in here to break this outer edge up. The nice thing to do with those as well, which I didn't do in my drawing, is they can be bent as if we're following the contour of this, and that will help with this feeling that this is lower. I left these actually uncoloured in the drawing, but I often like to create them as if they look like seeds by adding black and leaving that little highlight there. So you can bend the lines or not bend the lines. We can add lines on this side, again contour lines. And these contour lines need to start and go and finish at the corners. So it helps with that feeling of dimension as well. So that's one I like. Okay, another flower I did was like this. And I just drew petals around like this. I didn't count how many they were, it's just however many could fit in. Try to keep them about the same size or at least the same distance, but it's not important if you don't. And that's really quite cute as it is, but I popped an aura around because again I'm conscious I'm creating a colouring page, and I do want plenty of things for people to have fun with in terms of colour. And again I just weighted or rounded these corners, which reminds me of the joins in stained glass. Okay, a couple of other things. What else did I do? I'm looking for simple, oh yeah, there was another flower. I'm looking for the simple motifs before I go to the Tangle Patterns and perhaps some of the cute critters. Is this one. So it's two concentric circles. You put a highlight on this one, the small one, and then we draw smaller petals all the way round. This can be stopped with just one layer of petals, or you could go on and add more. But I also like to add either little shapes, which may or may not be coloured in, or a couple of lines here. When I'm not doing this for a colouring page, it depends how big I draw them, but you get the idea. And you can just keep going with a second layer. It's entirely up to you, and there's lots of ways of adding these extra petals. You can go from centre to centre, so you get a more rounded line. You end up with something, if you carry on with layers, that looks a bit like a chrysanthemum, one of the big ball ones, which is fun. Okie dokes, I'm just checking any more flowers. Flowers or botanics. Apart from mucas, this kind of shape where you go up, draw around. I'm off the screen, I'm sorry, I'll start again. We go up, around, as if you're forming a circle, and I go back up and round like this, or sometimes further down. It just depends on what mood I'm in. Draw a line from here, and then we can add some rounding there and perhaps some weight to the left and the bottom. So there. So if I carry on with this one, I think that's how Mooka itself is drawn, just quite simply. And it's that there that makes the difference. So there's that. Okie dokes. Yeah, we've got plenty here. I will zoom out and show you all. Okay. Other bits and bobs. I had some envelopes in there. So like this, and I put a little heart on them for interest. I had some simple flags as well. I put vertical stripes on both, and I wish I'd put horizontal on some. I've got coins, perhaps. This one could be a kind of coin or a token of some kind. And I did pop a square in one. And I added shadow here to make this look as if this is cut away, like there's a hole in it. Heart-shaped hole or divot, which is fun. I did another one with, well, of course, a heart on, because I like hearts. And for that one, I put the shadow there and there. Hopefully that, I haven't drawn this one very well, but you can see perhaps the difference between them. Oh, I didn't actually have the heart in a circle, I just used a heart as it was. And I also had one that was a paw print. So paw print, I draw like this. 2 big ones and 2 smaller ones. And for my paw print, I'm looking for where I put it. I think I made it appear as if it was engraved. That's the word I'm looking for, engraved. I also did a flask, as in a chemistry flask. So this kind of shape. So I started with the rectangle for the top of the flask, 2 straight lines and then a triangle. And I'm going to pop the top of the liquid in, but not join it to the edge. I'm going to make it look as if it's like this, and then you've got to have some fizz. Says a chemistry teacher who did have chemical reactions that fizzed, but not as many as you might think. But it always looks dramatic in television if you've got fizzing and smoke pouring out and bright colours. And a fanciful stopper in there. So that would work. When this is coloured in, it does look like a liquid. Okay, anything else of this ilk? Oh, cupcakes. Right. So I had a couple of different cupcakes. I'm going to draw one. So I start with this kind of shape, and then I am going to draw the top of the paper. I've used scallops, semicircles in the ones today, but you can use triangles, just a plain shape, or wavy, however you like it to be. So the easiest one, I think, is if I actually draw the cake in and then some icing dripped over the top of it. And I'm going to pop a cherry in there. So I draw these in pencil. So I drew the shape of the cake, a nice rounded top, then a little bit bigger than that cake, I've drawn some drippy icing in, and again another curve, and I've plopped the cherry in there. Now the cherry is going to be inside the icing, so I need to draw the icing. So there's the drippiness of it, and then I can finish off the cake, the cherry, and to make it look like a cherry I'm going to put a U in there and then a stalk coming off and just thicken one end, and that will do. The only other thing I tend to do is put a couple of little dots in there to make it look like it might be cake. Okay, the other one that I did, and I'll do this with a smaller section because it could actually be a cupcake, or it could be some ice cream. So what I tend to do with this one is I draw a shape like this on there, so kind of a teardrop shape, and then I'm going to have swoops and swirls of either cream or ice cream, icing, frosting I think you call it in America. Buttercream, you know, anything that's gooey and can be piped, or soft ice cream. And again I'm going to top this with a cherry, but if I don't put a point at the top of this, then the cherry will just happily sit there. Each of these shapes is an S shape, and it starts from just outside that pencil shape. It goes around just outside and back in that little bit, curves back in, and then pen, find a pen. I'm just going to pop some lines in here so it appears to be in layers. I also did one that looked like a huge blueberry, so but I messed up drawing this one, so let's, on the page, so let's have a go at drawing this here. So another cupcake. I want half a blueberry. I want it to look like the cake is a blueberry. At the top I'm going to draw a little star, and yep, it's going to be a little black one. I'm going to aura around it, and then I can draw the top in. And I did put a couple of shiny bits there. So some cupcakes. How are we doing for time? God blimey, half an hour. Okay, sweets or candies. Done a circle. I've done circular ones, but they could be any shape you like. So shapes like this coming out. And then we can, a bit like cupcakes, aren't they? But instead of drawing straight lines here, what I'm going to do is a dot, or solid lines is a dot and then a line. The idea that it's making it look like these are folded or twisted. Now, I like to draw stripy sweets, and I'm drawing the stripes as contour lines, so it adds to that feeling that the sweet is rounded. So that's all a bit of fun there. Okay, anything else? Oh yeah, I forgot about the mushrooms. I've got two kinds of mushrooms on this drawing, and they're both drawn in a similar kind of way. The first ones I start with a teardrop, and I will pop a little highlight in there. Then I'm going to draw the side here, the side here, and I'm not worried about whether they're even or symmetrical because I'm going to have a raggedy edge I'll draw the stem in, start thin, get a bit thicker. Yeah. And then how I completed this one was I took the points of these up and drew lines from them, points sticking upwards, and drew lines from them going up to the top. And then I feel this is a bit of a big space really, so I can just add another line in wherever I like. I've made these quite spiky, but you could make them quite wavy as well, and that would work. And the other ones were similar, except I started with a circle on the top, and from that circle I went out like this and created that kind of line. But instead of having vertical lines on the cap, I had a couple of wavy lines, and again I drew the stem thicker. I did weight the lines, use different weights as well. To the bottom and the left, mainly of these. So if I go to the left here, and the same here. Bottom and left, and of course to the left side of the stem. Not doing a fantastic job here. I'm sorry you didn't see me do those ones because I didn't check I was on the screen. This is the problem with zooming in. Okay, and then this one here. It's not just a problem with zooming in, it's a problem with me getting so engrossed in drawing. I forget what I'm doing. So those are the two kinds of mushrooms that I used. I also drew some butterflies, really quite simply. So like this, and I did some wings on them. Tried to make the wings fairly symmetrical because I've drawn this a lot bigger than it is in the drawing, so you can see. But I kept the patterns on the wings really simple because the butterfly was really quite small. I also did Dragonfly. So I have 3 body parts. I've got quite a big head. I'm sure some people say that about me, literally. Oh, you know, oh, she's got a big head, like she knows so much. Hope I don't come across as that. Put its little antenna on there. In this case, drawing it, I've put big eyes on. You can actually make them really quite bulbous if you want by really drawing eyes. Okay, so for this, I'm going to draw one side. So for these, I started with a spiral and then complete it, you know, drew the line to complete it, and then I drew this shape of line to complete that wing. And then the second pair of wings, I created just a very simple shape, like so. Got a bit more space on this one than I did on my other drawing, because this one's a bit bigger. But what I did here was I put just, again, small space, simple patterns. Oh, and some bubbles. I did some bubbles. The bubbles are big. There's the highlights on them that I draw. So those are all of the motifs that I drew. I'll just zoom out again and you can see them all. So all of these are in my drawing. All of them. Oh, I had a couple of filler patterns sort of for big spaces. I used bubbles in one. In another I used concentric circles, and with smaller circles in between them where there was space, spacing them out. Absolutely fun to colour in because you can play, for me it's fun to colour in because I can play with dimension and a feeling of whether something's behind, fading, going into the distance or coming towards you, and I enjoy doing that. It had stars as well, so 5-pointed stars, and I did add some line weighting to them, to the left and bottom, like so. So it makes them stand up from the background. And the other background pattern I used is a fairly large circle in relation to the size of the space. And then I pop, well, today I did 6 sausage shapes, but you could do circles around, arrange them evenly or not. But it just breaks a large space up without creating too much busyness, but gives something else for colour to be added to. Oh, the other sort of pattern I had in there as a filler are some tentacles. I like tentacles. They're fun. And they are also fun for adding stripes to. And great for black and white or black and coloured. Halloween time, they're great to pop. All kinds of things, lime green and purple with black and so on. So I think that's everything. In terms of that, I did do a couple of Tangle Patterns. They're just square grids, so I will draw the fragments I've used. I used 3 in grids. First one, dot in the centre, teardrop shapes or petal shapes with the broad end pointing towards the corner. And then I actually put dots here and I drew a diamond behind them. But as an alternative, it's easy enough to just do a square behind. So either will, whichever. I just thought the diamond would be something a bit different. Another variation I did was, actually, I drew it in a way that made it more awkward, because I put the 4 teardrop shapes in, then drew the circle. But if you draw the central circle first, it makes it easy. And I put one of my beloved seedy things in there. And then the last version I used was to pop a circle in the centre and draw 4 petal shapes radiating off towards the corners. These are all variations on a theme. This was the first one I drew. This one is an alternative I've just shown you. But I used 4 teardrop shapes in each. These are teardrop shapes. They would be if they went right to the middle. So I made use of the same kind of pattern. Okay. Border patterns. One was a simple zigzag. another one was a bit more complex. And to draw that, I did split my border up into sections. And I think if I remember rightly, I did pop a central line in because I did like seed shapes in here, because I find this is the best way for me to draw these regularly and evenly than trying to draw a looping line. I ordered those shapes and I popped an empty circle in them, but you know, if it was one of my entangled drawings, then it would be a bit different. And then I popped just the bottom of a curve in, as if we've got another layer of these going on. And in fact, in the one on the page, I actually made these rectangles quite a lot longer, so there was a lot. This curve was shallower, and so there was a lot more space there. Another one pattern I did, again, I did use pencil to construct it. It's like this. So I put a line about 1/3 of the way down, between 1/4 and 1/3. And then I drew vertical lines, which I could have put the vertical lines in first, but not, because I want the zigzag shape there, and then I can draw these straight lines down from the top point and the bottom point all the way down. And it creates a nice kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Quite a volume rich, or potential of volume in that is really rather good. Apart from a rainbow, the only other bordered pattern I did was this one. And I think I did this one freehand. So I started with a chain of leaf shapes like this. And then I popped circles between them, or semicircles this way. I did do another circle. Coloured these areas in. I coloured them in for the colouring page because the spaces were perhaps just a bit too tiny for people to want to colour. Like this, and then I think I just popped a little black wedge in there. If I was doing this for myself as a pattern, I'd perhaps do that, and I could even pop these central lines running through, so it's like you're looking underneath through it. So that is all of the patterns I used, and of course naturally I've gone to the back of a piece of paper. Genius move there. I will show you some Doodleworlds characters another day, because this is 42 minutes long and I have loads of patterns. So there we go. A lot of fun. I enjoy drawing designs like this very much. And the only things I have not drawn are all of these Doodleworlds characters, and there's enough there to draw for an hour most probably, as it is, and more. I don't know, that one's my favourite one at the moment, the goofy, strange, rabbity kind of thing. Quite like that one. I've got a bit of a fondness for squiddy type critters. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed that, and that showing you how I draw things or how the different motifs are drawn gives you an opportunity to give this a go for yourself as well, is to use these patterns or these motifs. I haven't shared them with people before, some of them. In fact, some of them didn't actually exist until today. Not for me anyway. I don't think I used the idea from this. This was in my pattern book, my dictionary, my visual dictionary, or what directory, whatever you want to call it. And this was a variation of it. So it hadn't existed before. And some of these critters won't have, because I just make them up as I go along, because that's the fun of it. And in fact, I hadn't drawn those before. Or had I? Yes, I think I had. Oh, this one. There's a pattern over here. But it's very, very similar to this one. Except it's got squares behind it because I drew the lines in. It's very, very similar. So there we are. So thank you very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed and that it makes some kind of sense. And I look forward to seeing you with me once again. Take care for now. Look after yourselves and be creative. Bye-bye. Bye.